Jake Morrison stepped off the transport shuttle and looked around the massive docking bay. The Galactic Council station was bigger than anything he had ever seen. Metal walls stretched up so high he could barely see the ceiling. Strange lights blinked in patterns he did not understand. The air smelled like chemicals and something else he could not name. He carried only a simple black briefcase and wore his best diplomatic uniform. The dark blue fabric was clean and pressed, but it looked cheap next to the fancy clothes worn by other species representatives. Jake did not mind. He had worn much worse in much worse places. A tall, thin alien approached him. Its skin was gray and smooth like a dolphin, but it walked on two legs like a human. "You are the human ambassador?" It asked in perfect English, though its voice sounded like it was speaking through water. "Ambassador Jake Morrison, representing Earth and her colonies," Jake said with a small bow. He had practiced this greeting many times. The alien did not. "Bow back. I am Secretary Velenoth. Follow me. The council is waiting." As they walked through long hallways, Jake saw aliens he had only read about in briefing files. Some looked like giant insects walking upright. Others were covered in fur or scales. A few glowed with their own light. All of them stared at Jake. As he passed, some looked curious. Most looked like they smelled something bad. "First time off your world?" asked Secretary Velenoth. "First time meeting the council," Jake replied. It was not exactly a lie, but it was not the whole truth either. They entered a waiting room where other ambassadors sat in chairs made for different body types. Jake found a simple metal chair that fit him and sat down. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a tablet to review his notes one more time. A creature that looked like a walking tree with too many arms laughed. "Look at the primitive using Stone Age technology." The translation device in Jake's ear made the alien's words sound like rustling leaves. Jake looked up calmly. "It works well enough for what I need." He went back to his reading. Across the room, a reptilian being with golden scales watched Jake carefully. This was Zorvac, head of council security. His yellow eyes missed nothing. Something about the human seemed odd, but he could not figure out what. When the council doors finally opened, Jake followed the other ambassadors into the main chamber. The room was shaped like a bowl, with seats arranged in circles going down to a center stage. 12 different species had representatives, each sitting in their own section with special equipment for their needs. At the highest level sat Crixtel, the current council leader. He was a Veltar, a species that looked like humans but taller and thinner, with silver skin and white hair. Crixtel wore robes covered in jewels that caught the light. His pale eyes looked down at Jake with obvious dislike. "So," Crixtel said, his voice echoing through the chamber, "Earth finally sends someone to ask for permission to play with the real civilizations." Some of the other representatives made sounds that might have been laughter. Jake stood in the center circle and waited patiently. "You may speak, human," Crixtel said like he was doing Jake a great favor. Jake activated a small holographic projector. Images of Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies appeared in the air above him. "Honored council members, I come before you to request trade agreements and protection under galactic law for all human settlements." "Protection?" Another representative, an insect-like being, clicked its mandibles. What could a species that discovered space travel 50 years ago possibly need protection from? "Pirates, mostly," Jake said simply. "Our cargo ships carry valuable minerals and food products. We have had several attacks on trade routes. Perhaps if your species had not rushed into space before you were ready, you would not have these problems." Crixtel said, "The Veltar have been exploring the galaxy for 3,000 years. We learned patience." Jake nodded politely. "We may be young, but we learn fast. Our colonies are growing every year. We want to be good neighbors." "Good neighbors. Do not make demands," snapped another representative. "I am not making demands," Jake said. his voice still calm and respectful. "I am asking for the same rights given to other species when they joined the galactic community." Crystal leaned forward. "Other species proved themselves worthy first. What has humanity accomplished besides breeding too fast and strip mining planets?" Jake's face did not change, but something flickered in his dark eyes. "We survived. Barely," Crystal laughed. "Your military could not fight off a cargo ship, much less defend trade routes. We have seen your weapons. Chemical rockets and metal. Bullets. How ... quaint." Several representatives made more laughing sounds. Jake simply made a note on his tablet. In the observer section, Lyra Voss of the Ethereal Collective studied the human ambassador. Her species was old and wise, and she had seen many first-time diplomats over the years. Most showed fear, anger, or desperation when insulted. This human showed nothing at all. His heart rate had not even increased. That was ... unusual. "We will consider your request," Crystal said, waving his hand dismissively. "In the meantime, you may enjoy our hospitality. Secretary Valanoth will show you to your quarters." As the session ended, Jake gathered his things and followed the secretary out. Behind him, he heard the representatives talking among themselves. Pathetic species. They will not last another century. Why waste time on such primitives? Jake said nothing. He had heard worse things said about humans, usually right before those same people learned to regret their words. But this was different. This was diplomacy. He was here to talk, not fight. Still, as he walked through the station's corridors, Jake noticed things a normal diplomat might miss. Security camera positions, guard patrol routes, emergency exits, weapons lockers. Old habits, he told himself. Just old habits. In his quarters that night, Jake sent his first report back to Earth. Initial contact established. Council skeptical but willing to negotiate. Recommend patience and continued diplomatic approach. He did not mention the insults or the obvious contempt. There was no point. He was here to do a job and he would do it. But deep in the station's security center, Zorvak was reviewing footage of the humans' arrival. Something still bothered him about Jake Morrison. The way he moved, the way he looked around, the way. He stayed calm when other species would have shown emotion. Zorvak pulled up Jake's file again. Standard diplomatic background. No military service listed. Born on Earth, educated at various universities, worked his way up through civilian government positions. It all looked normal. Too normal. Run a deeper background check on the human, Zorvak told his assistant. Something is not right about him. 3 days had passed since Jake's first meeting with the council. Each day brought more insults and delays. The other ambassadors acted like he was not worth their time. Jake kept taking notes and staying polite, but he could see this was going nowhere fast. On the morning of the 4th day, Jake was reviewing trade proposals in his quarters when alarms started blaring throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the hallways. The intercom crackled to life. Security alert. All personnel remain in quarters. Hostile forces have breached the station. Jake looked out his small window and saw nothing unusual in space. No attacking ships, no explosions. Something felt wrong about this whole situation. His door chimed. Jake opened it to find Lieutenant Chun, his diplomatic escort, looking worried. Chun was a young officer from Earth's Diplomatic Security Service. This was his first assignment off-world. "Sir, we need to get you to the safe room," Chun said. "There are reports of human terrorists on the station." "Human terrorists?" Jake raised an eyebrow. "That seems unlikely. How many humans are even on this station?" "Just us, sir. But the reports say they came in on a supply ship this morning." Jake grabbed his briefcase. Something was definitely wrong here, but he had to play along for now. They left his quarters and headed toward the diplomatic safe area. The corridors were mostly empty, except for security teams running in the opposite direction. Strange, Jake said quietly. If there really was an attack, these hallways should be full of people trying to get to safety. Chun nodded nervously. Maybe everyone is already safe? They turned a corner and found their path blocked by a security checkpoint that had not been there yesterday. 6 alien guards in full combat armor stood behind energy barriers. Jake recognized the lead guard as one of Zorvak's officers. Ambassador Morrison, the guard said through his helmet speaker. Please come with us. We will escort you to safety. Jake stopped walking. In all his years of training, he had learned to trust his instincts. Right now, those instincts were screaming. Danger. I think we can find our own way, thank you. I insist, the guard said. His hand moved to his weapon. Jake looked at Chun. The young officer's eyes were wide with fear, but he was reaching for his sidearm. Good instincts, but Chun was not trained for this kind of fight. Chun, Jake said calmly. When I say run, you run, do not look back. Get to the Earth Embassy and send a message home. Tell them the council is not what it seems. Sir, I cannot leave you, that is an order. The lead guard stepped forward. Enough talk. You come with us now. Run, Jake said. Chun turned and sprinted back the way they came. 2 guards raised their weapons to shoot him, but Jake was already moving. He threw his briefcase hard at the nearest guard's helmet, then dove behind a support pillar as energy beams lit up the corridor. The briefcase exploded on impact. Not from the throw, but from the small explosive Jake had built into it 3 days ago. Old habits from his previous life. The blast knocked 2 guards down and shorted out their energy barrier. Jake rolled to his feet and grabbed a piece of metal. Debris from the explosion. It was not much of a weapon, but he had worked with worse. The remaining guards spread out, trying to surround him. You cannot escape, human, the lead guard called out. This entire station is under our control. Under whose control? Jake asked, staying behind cover. Zorvak, or someone higher up? Council leader Crixtel has decided your species is too dangerous to be allowed into galactic society. Your death will be blamed on human extremists. Very convenient, Jake almost smiled. After 3 days of being called primitive and weak, it was funny to hear he was now too dangerous. So there are no human terrorists. We are the terrorists today, the guard laughed. Tomorrow we will be heroes who stopped a human attack on the council. The guards moved closer, their weapons ready. Jake counted their positions by sound. 4 still active, spread out in a semicircle. He needed to even the odds fast. Jake picked up a smaller piece of debris and threw it down the corridor behind the guards. When they turned to look, he charged. The metal shard in his hand found the gap between one guard's helmet and chest armor. The alien dropped without a sound. The other guards spun around, but Jake was already rolling away. He came up with the fallen guard's weapon and put 2 quick shots into the next closest enemy. The weapon felt strange in his hands, but all weapons worked on the same basic principles. Impossible, the lead guard snarled. You are just a diplomat. I used to be other things, Jake said. Taking cover again as more energy beams flew past. His head, down the corridor, he could hear more guards coming. Many more. This had been planned well. Too well for a simple assassination. This was military precision. Jake's mind shifted into combat mode. He had not felt this clarity in 15 years, not since the last time someone tried to kill him on Mars. The feeling was familiar and unwelcome. He had hoped those days were behind him. The remaining guards rushed his position together. Jake waited until the last second, then came around the pillar low and fast. His first shot took out the lead guard's knee. His second shot hit the final guard center mass. In the sudden quiet, Jake could hear his own breathing. Calm and steady, like he was reading a book instead of fighting for his life. Some things never change. He quickly searched the bodies for equipment, extra power cells for the energy weapon, a small explosive device. Most importantly, A communication device that might let him contact the outside. The comm unit crackled with chatter. Security teams were moving all over the station, but not to help. They were hunting him. All units, the human has killed. Team 7. He is armed and extremely dangerous. Shoot on sight. Jake almost laughed at that. Extremely dangerous. If they only knew. He activated his own comm unit and tried to reach Chun or anyone from the Earth Embassy. Static. They were jamming all communications except their own frequencies. More guards were coming down the corridor. Jake could hear their heavy footsteps and see the glow of their weapons. Time to move. Jake stripped the combat vest from one of the dead guards and put it on over his diplomatic uniform. It was too big, but it would stop some energy blasts. He also took extra weapons and ammunition. As he prepared to leave, Jake noticed something carved into the wall near the checkpoint. Fresh scratches in the metal that looked like Veltar writing. He could not read it, but he took a picture with his comm device anyway. The footsteps were getting closer. Jake slipped into a maintenance shaft he had noticed on his first day. The space was tight, but he fit. Above him, he could hear the guards discovering their dead teammates. Secure the area. He cannot have gone far. Jake crawled through the maintenance tunnel, following a mental map he had built over the last 3 days. He had memorized the station's layout because that was what he did. That was what he had always done, even when he was trying to be just. A diplomat. Behind him, the voices grew fainter. But Jake knew this was just the beginning. They had tried to kill him quietly, and that had failed. Now they would try to kill him loudly. Jake Morrison, the patient diplomat, was dead. What crawled through those maintenance tunnels was something else entirely. Something the galaxy was not ready for. The hunt had begun. Jake crawled through the maintenance tunnels for 20 minutes before he found what he was looking for. An access panel that led to the station's main computer core. He had seen it marked on the technical drawings during his first day tour. Panel was locked, but Jake had learned to open many locks in his previous life. A few minutes with a piece of metal from his earlier fight, and the panel clicked open. Inside the computer core, cooling systems hummed quietly. Thousands of data. Cables ran along the walls like metal veins. Jake found an access terminal and plugged in his comm device. If he could slice into the station's systems, he might learn who was really behind this attack. His fingers moved across the interface faster than most people could follow. Computer security was just another kind of lock, and Jake knew how to open those too. Within minutes, he was reading classified files about the station's operation. What he found made him angry. Really angry. The attack was planned weeks ago. Krikstal had been working with criminal organizations to stage fake terrorist attacks. The goal was simple: make humanity look dangerous, then justify destroying Earth's colonies before they could grow stronger. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was the list of other species Krikstal had already destroyed using the same method. 12 different civilizations, all eliminated because they were growing too fast or asking too many questions. Jake copied all the files to his comm device. Then he started looking for something else. His own personnel file. The one the council had been given when he was assigned as ambassador. He found it quickly. According to the official record, Jake Morrison was a career diplomat with no military experience. University education, civilian government work. Never been in combat. All lies. Jake opened a hidden partition on his comm device and accessed his real file. The one that was buried so deep in Earth's military archives that only 5 people in the government could read it. Colonel Jake Morrison, Terran Special Operations Division, 43 successful solo missions. Veteran of the Titan Wars, the Mars Rebellion, and the Belt Campaign. Psychological evaluation. Do not deploy unless absolutely necessary. Recommended for diplomatic service as a way to keep him away from active combat zones. Jake almost smiled. They had sent him here because they thought he would be safe. They thought diplomacy would be boring for someone like him. An alert chimed on the terminal. Security teams had found the access panel he had used to enter the computer core. They would be here soon. Jake uploaded a copy of all the evidence to a secure server back on Earth. Then he started another program, one he had written years ago for a different war. It would take a few minutes to spread through the station's network, but when it was done, every screen on the station would show the truth about Crixtel's conspiracy. Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. Jake gathered his weapons and prepared to leave, but the footsteps stopped right outside the computer core entrance. "We know you are in there, human," called a familiar voice. Zorvac himself had come to finish this. "You cannot escape. This room has only one exit." Jake looked around. Zorvac was right about the exit, but wrong about escape. The computer core had something else. Maintenance access to the station's atmospheric processing system. "Come out now and your death will be quick," Zorvac continued. "Continue to resist, and we will make it slow." Jake finished his upload and wiped the terminal. Then he spoke loud enough for Zorvac to hear. "You made one mistake." "What mistake is that?" "You should have checked my real file before you tried to kill me." Jake opened the atmospheric access panel and slipped inside just as the main door exploded inward. Security forces poured into the computer core, weapons ready, but found only empty air. Through the atmospheric system, Jake could travel anywhere on the station. The tunnels were bigger here, designed to move air and maintenance crews. He moved quickly toward his next target. The evidence he had uploaded was already spreading through the station's network. On screens throughout the diplomatic sections, alien representatives were reading about Crixtel's crimes. The list of destroyed civilizations. The planned attack on Earth. Jake reached an observation deck and looked down at the main diplomatic area. Through the windows he could see aliens arguing with each other. Some looked shocked. Others looked angry. A few looked scared. His comm device beeped with an incoming message. Jake smiled when he saw the sender's ID. Lieutenant Chun had made it to the Earth Embassy alive. "Sir, I have sent word to Earth. Help is coming. Where are you?" Jake typed. "Back quickly. Safe for now. Stay in the embassy. Do not trust station security. We'll contact you soon." Through his earpiece, Jake could hear security chatter. Teams were searching every level of the station. They had found the computer core empty and were expanding their search pattern. But they were looking for a diplomat trying to hide. They were not looking for a soldier hunting them. Jake made his way to the station's security center. If he could reach the main surveillance room, he could watch their movements and plan his next attack. More importantly, he could access the communication systems and contact the other council members directly. The security center was heavily guarded, but the guards were looking outward, not inward. They expected threats to come from the corridors, not from the air ducts above their heads. Jake dropped down behind the communications console. The two technicians on duty never saw him coming. A quick strike to pressure points, and both aliens collapsed unconscious. Jake dragged them into a supply closet and locked the door. Now he had access to the entire station's communication network. Jake activated the emergency broadcast system. His voice would now be heard in every room, every corridor, every office on the station. "Attention all council members and diplomatic staff. This is Ambassador Jake Morrison of Earth. I am speaking to you from the station's security center, which I have just captured." Throughout the station, aliens stopped what they were doing to listen. 3 hours ago, corrupt council security forces attempted to assassinate me. This attack was ordered by council leader Crixtel as part of a plan to blame human terrorists for my death. I have evidence that proves this conspiracy. Jake activated the holographic display system. Throughout the station, the evidence files appeared on every screen. Financial records, communication logs, the list of destroyed civilizations. Crystal has used this same method to destroy 12 other species over the past 50 years. He is not protecting galactic civilization. He is preventing it from growing. In the council chambers, Crystal was screaming at his guards to cut the transmission. But Jake had locked them out of the communication system using codes he had learned from the captured security center. "I want to make something clear to everyone listening," Jake continued. "I came here as a diplomat because my government wanted peace. I have spent 3 days being insulted and dismissed as primitive. You have called humans weak, stupid, and helpless." Jake paused, letting that sink in. "I am alone on this station, outnumbered by thousands, hunted by your best security forces. And yet I am speaking to you from your own security center, having captured it without killing a single person." On screens throughout the station, security footage played. Jake moving through maintenance tunnels. Jake taking down armed guards with improvised weapons. Jake accessing secured computer systems. "My name is Jake Morrison. I used to be Colonel Jake Morrison, Terran Special Operations Division. I have been fighting wars since before some of your species discovered fire. I volunteered for diplomatic service because I was tired of fighting." The security footage continued. Jake surviving in vacuum when life support failed in one section. Jake calculating complex ballistic trajectories in zero gravity. Jake demonstrating knowledge of alien anatomy that only military intelligence would possess. "You want to know what makes humans dangerous? It is not our weapons or our ships. It is that we do not give up, ever. When you attack us, we adapt. When you hunt us, we hunt back. When you try to destroy us, we become the thing you fear most." Jake looked directly into the main security camera. "I am what happens when you back a human into a corner. I am what you get when you threaten our people, our colonies, our future. I am proof that the species you called primitive and weak can produce individuals who can bring down your entire power structure." Throughout the station, the alien representatives were quiet. Even Crystal had stopped shouting. "Council Leader Crystal, you have 30 minutes to surrender yourself for trial. If you do not, I will come find you. And when I do, you will learn exactly how dangerous we primitives can be." Jake cut the transmission and began preparing for the next phase of his mission. The revelation was complete. Now came the reckoning. Jake's 30-minute deadline was almost up. Throughout the station, he could hear the chaos his broadcast had caused. Alarms were ringing everywhere. Security teams were running in all directions. Some were looking for him. Others were trying to reach Crystal. Many seemed confused about what they were supposed to do. From the security center, Jake watched it all on the surveillance screens. The other council members had locked themselves in their chambers, afraid to come out. Some were sending urgent messages to their home worlds. Others were demanding answers from station command, but Crystal had not surrendered. Instead, the Veltar leader had activated the station's emergency lockdown. All docking bays were sealed. No ships could leave. He was turning the entire station into a trap. Jake's COM device buzzed with a message from Lieutenant Chun. "Sir, the Earth Embassy is surrounded. They are not letting anyone in or out." "What are your orders?" Jake typed back quickly. "Stay safe. Keep the embassy sealed. This will be over soon." He hoped that was true. On the security screens, Jake could see Crystal in the council leader's private command center. The alien was surrounded by his most loyal guards and several mercenaries, who looked like they were not from any council species. Hired killers, probably. Crystal was talking to someone on a secure communication line. Jake could not hear the conversation, but he could read the alien's body language. Fear and desperation. Whatever plan he had been following was falling apart. Jake left the security center and began moving toward Crystal's command post. The station's layout was complex, with multiple levels and sections. but Jake had memorized it all. He moved through maintenance tunnels and service corridors, staying invisible. As he traveled, Jake set up surprises for the security teams hunting him. A motion sensor here, connected to a light that would blind anyone who walked past. A loose floor panel there that would make noise when stepped on. Simple tricks, but effective. He also began shutting down systems as he went. Life support to empty sections. Artificial gravity in corridors he did not need to use. Communications relay stations. Each small action made it harder for Crixtel. Forces to coordinate. Jake reached the command center level and found it heavily defended. Guards at every intersection. Automated weapons at key choke points. Motion sensors covering all the main corridors, but they were defending against a normal attack. They expected someone to come through the main passages with weapons blazing. Jake was not normal, and this was not a normal attack. Instead of fighting through the defenses, Jake went around them. He accessed the station's maintenance systems and began flooding the lower levels with harmless but thick foam used for fire suppression. Soon, half the security teams were struggling through chest-deep white foam that made it impossible to see or move quickly. Next, Jake triggered the emergency medical alerts for several sections. Automated systems began broadcasting that there were injured personnel who needed immediate help. Many guards left their posts to respond to the fake emergencies. While the station's defenses were distracted, Jake made his way to the command center's power supply. Every section of the station had backup generators in case of main power failure. But the backup systems had their own weaknesses. Jake found the main power coupling for Crixtal's command center and attached a small device he had built from spare parts. Not a bomb, but something more subtle. A power regulation disruptor that would cause random system failures throughout the command center. Within minutes, the effects began. Lights flickered on and off. Security cameras went dark for a few seconds at a time. Door locks engaged and disengaged randomly. Communication systems produced static. Through his COM device, Jake could hear the guards in the command center becoming frustrated and confused. Their equipment was not working properly. They could not tell what was a real threat and what was a system malfunction. Jake used the confusion to get closer. He slipped past the outer defenses and reached the command center's secondary entrance. This door was locked and guarded, but Jake had expected that. He waited until the power disruptor caused another system failure, then moved. In the brief moment when the door's security system reset, Jake opened it using codes he had learned from the captured security center. The guard on the other side was looking at his malfunctioning equipment and never saw Jake coming. A quick blow to the right spot on the alien's neck, and the guard collapsed unconscious. Jake was now inside the command center's outer ring. He could hear Crixtal's voice coming from the central chamber, still talking on his secure communication line. "Yes, the human is more dangerous than we expected," Crixtal was saying, "but he is still just one person. We can contain this situation." Jake almost laughed. Contain the situation. If only Crixtal knew how many situations Jake had been in. Over the years, Jake moved closer, staying in the shadows between the flickering lights. He could see into the central chamber now. Crixtal stood at a large control console, surrounded by 8 guards and 3 mercenaries. All of them were armed with heavy weapons, but Jake was not planning to fight them all at once. That would be wasteful and dangerous. Instead, he began picking them off one by one. The first guard was standing near a ventilation grate, checking his weapon. Jake reached through the grate and pulled the alien inside. The guard disappeared without making a sound. The second guard was at a monitoring station, trying to fix the malfunctioning cameras. Jake appeared behind him like a shadow. Another pressure point strike. Another unconscious enemy. By the time the remaining guards realized what was happening, Jake had eliminated half of them. The survivors began firing wildly at shadows, hitting their own equipment and making the system failures worse. "Where is he?" one of the mercenaries screamed. "I cannot see him." "He is just a human," Crystal shouted back. "Find him and kill him." Jake stepped out of the shadows at the far end of the chamber. In his hands, he carried weapons taken from the fallen guards. His diplomatic uniform was torn and dirty, but his eyes were calm and focused. "I am right here," Jake said quietly. The remaining guards and mercenaries spun toward him, raising their weapons. But Jake was already moving again. Using the cover of the damaged control consoles and the confusion of the flickering lights, what followed was not really a fight. It was a demonstration. Jake moved through the command center like water flowing around rocks. Every shot fired at him missed. Every move he made was precise and economical. One by one, the defenders fell. When the shooting stopped, only Jake and Crystal remained standing. The Veltar leader was pressed against his control console, holding a small energy pistol with shaking hands. "Stay back," Crystal screamed. "I will destroy the entire station. Everyone will die." Jake looked at the control console. Crystal's finger was hovering over what looked like a self-destruct activation switch. "You could do that," Jake said, walking slowly closer. "But then you would never know if your plan might have worked. You would never know if you could have beaten me." "I can beat you," Crystal snarled. "I am superior. My species has ruled the galaxy for thousands of years." "Your species," Jake said, now only a few steps away, "has been living off the work of others for thousands of years. When was the last time a Veltar actually built something? Created something? Discovered something?" Crystal's hand shook harder. "We maintain order. We keep the peace. You maintain your own power," Jake replied. "You destroy anyone who might threaten that power. But you made one mistake." "What mistake?" Jake smiled, and for the first time. Since arriving at the station, it was not a diplomatic smile. It was the smile of a predator who had cornered its prey. "You thought I came here alone." Behind Crystal, the main communication screen flickered to life. On it appeared the face of Admiral Lisa Hayes, commander of the Earth Defense Force. "Council Leader Crystal," Admiral Hayes said, "you are surrounded. The Terran fleet has just dropped out of hyperspace around this station. You will surrender immediately, or we will take you by force." Crystal spun around to look at the screen. His weapon no longer pointed at Jake. It was all the opening Jake needed. Jake moved like lightning. As Crystal turned to stare at Admiral Hayes on the screen, Jake struck. His hand knocked the energy pistol away, sending it sliding across the floor. His other hand grabbed Crystal by the throat and pushed him against the control console. "Do not touch that self-destruct," Jake said quietly. "There are innocent people on this station." Crystal struggled, but Jake's grip was like steel. You said you came alone." "I did come alone," Jake replied. "But did you really think Earth would send their most dangerous diplomat without backup?" "Admiral Hayes has been watching everything through my comm device. Every threat you made, every crime you confessed to." On the screen, Admiral Hayes nodded grimly. "We heard it all, Crystal. The conspiracy against Ambassador Morrison. The fake terrorist attack. The list of species you have destroyed over the years. It ends now." Through the station's windows, Jake could see the Earthships surrounding the Council station. Not just a few patrol boats, but a full battle fleet. Cruisers, destroyers, and support vessels. More firepower than the Council had seen in one place for decades. "How?" Crystal gasped. "How did they get here so fast?" Jake almost smiled. "You spent 3 days insulting humanity's technology, calling our ships slow and primitive. But you never asked how we got from Earth to the station so quickly in the first place." The truth was simple. Earth's faster-than-light technology was not primitive at all. It was just different. Where other species had focused on making travel comfortable and efficient, humans had focused on making it fast. Very fast, our ships can cross the galaxy in days, not weeks, Jake continued. When Lieutenant Shun sent his message to Earth, the fleet was already halfway here. They have been waiting just outside sensor range for my signal. Krikstal's pale eyes showed real fear. Now, the Council will never allow this. You cannot threaten us with military force. We are not threatening anyone, Admiral Hayes said from the screen. We are responding to an attack on our diplomatic representative. According to galactic law, we have the right to defend our people. Jake released his grip on Krikstal's throat, but stayed close enough to stop any escape attempts. You wanted to know what makes humans dangerous? It is not that we are violent. It is that we are thorough. He activated his CUM device and began transmitting files to every ship in the Earth fleet. For the past 4 days, I have been gathering evidence. Not just about the attack on me, but about everything. Every species you have destroyed. Every innocent civilization you have eliminated to protect your power. The evidence files began appearing on screens throughout the Council station. Financial records showing payments to mercenaries. Communication logs proving the conspiracy. Video recordings of Krikstal giving orders to eliminate other species. Some of those species had families, Jake said, his voice growing colder. Children. Artists, scientists, people who just wanted to explore the galaxy and make friends with other civilizations. You murdered them all. Krikstal backed away, but there was nowhere to go. It was necessary. They were growing too fast. Becoming too powerful, like humanity? Jake asked. Yes. Exactly like humanity, Jake nodded slowly. Then you understand why this cannot continue. Throughout the station, other Council members were watching the transmissions with growing horror. Some had suspected Krikstal's methods were harsh, but none had known the full extent of his crimes. Lyra Voss, of the Ethereal Collective, was the first to speak through the station's communication system. In the name of the Ethereal Collective, I call for the immediate arrest of Council Leader Krikstal. These crimes cannot be ignored. Other voices joined hers. Representatives from species that had wondered about missing civilizations, missing trade partners, missing friends. The evidence was too clear to deny. The Council recognizes the charges against Krikstal, announced Ambassador Velanoth. We request that Earth assist in his arrest and trial. Jake looked at Krikstal, who had slumped against the control console in defeat. You hear that? Your own council wants you arrested. This is not a human conquest. This is justice. But Krikstal was not finished. His hand moved toward a hidden panel on the console. If I cannot rule the galaxy, then no one will. Jake saw the movement and reacted instantly. His fist struck Krikstal. Wrist, breaking bones and stopping the alien's reach for what looked like an emergency weapon release. Enough, Jake said firmly. He activated restraints from the security station and bound Krikstal's hands. You are under arrest for conspiracy, murder, and crimes against galactic civilization. As Jake secured his prisoner, Admiral Hayes spoke again from the screen. Ambassador Morrison, Earth Command is pleased to report that your diplomatic mission has been successful. The Council has agreed to all of our original requests, plus additional trade agreements and mutual defense treaties. Jake raised an eyebrow. They have? Ambassador Velanoth's voice came through the speakers. After witnessing the evidence you have gathered and the efficiency with which you have handled this crisis, the Council believes it would be wise to have humanity as an ally rather than an enemy. Through the station's communication system, Jake could hear other representatives agreeing. Some sounded eager, others sounded nervous. All of them sounded respectful. Furthermore, Velanoth continued, the Council would like to offer humanity a permanent seat in our governing body. Your species has demonstrated remarkable abilities in both diplomacy and crisis management. Jake looked at the unconscious and restrained guards scattered around the command center. Crisis management, that is one way to put it. Admiral Hayes smiled from the screen. What are your orders, Ambassador? Jake thought for a moment. Send a security team to take custody of Crystal. I want him tried by the full council, not just us. This needs to be seen as justice, not revenge. Understood. What about you? I will finish the diplomatic talks. There are still trade agreements to negotiate and treaties to sign. Jake straightened his torn uniform as best he could, though I might need a new suit. Admiral Hayes laughed. I think the council will understand. Over the next few hours, Jake watched as the station returned to normal operations. Earth security teams worked alongside council forces to arrest the remaining conspirators. Medical teams treated the injured guards who would all recover fully. Lieutenant Chun arrived at the command center, looking relieved to see Jake alive. Sir, the Earth Embassy is secure. All diplomatic staff are safe. Good work, Chun. Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them the mission is complete and all objectives have been achieved. Yes, sir. And sir? What is it? Chun hesitated. The other diplomatic staff are asking questions about your background. They want to know how a career diplomat learned to fight like that. Jake considered this. His cover was blown anyway, and the council already knew the truth. Tell them the truth. Sometimes the best diplomats are the ones who understand the alternatives to diplomacy. As Chun left to send his messages, Jake stood alone in the command center. Through the windows, he could see the Earth fleet maintaining its protective formation around the station. Soon, those ships would escort the first human trade convoys to Council worlds. His comm device chimed with a message from Earth. It was from the Secretary of State, his official boss. Jake, outstanding work. The President wants to offer you any position you want in the diplomatic service. Name it, and it is yours. Jake typed back slowly. Thank you, but I think I would like to go back to retirement. Send someone else for the follow-up negotiations. Someone who actually knows how to be diplomatic. A few minutes later, another message arrived. This one was from his old commanding officer in the Special Operations Division. Welcome back to the world, Jake. Heard you had some excitement. Interested in consulting work? We have some situations that could use your particular skills. Jake deleted the message without responding. He had come here to be a diplomat and somehow ended up being a soldier again. But for the first time in years, he felt like he had accomplished something worthwhile. The galaxy was a little bit safer now. Innocent species would not disappear in the night. The Council would think twice before threatening humanity or anyone else. Jake Morrison gathered his few belongings and headed for the docking bay where an Earth transport was waiting. His diplomatic mission was over. It was time to go home. But as he walked through the station's corridors, he noticed something different. The aliens he passed looked at him with respect, not contempt. Some even nodded politely. Word had spread quickly through the galactic community. Humanity had sent Death himself to negotiate for them, and he had done so with honor. The galaxy would remember that lesson for a very long time.